For hundreds of years, people from all walks of life have reported sightings of a large hairy animal walking on 2 feet. The scientific community has dismissed these sightings as hoaxes, hallucinations, or misidentified bears. But is there another option? Is it possible that there is an ape, the largest of the great apes, unrecognized and unclassified by modern science, roaming the forest of North America? Please join us as we seek the answer to this compelling question. You have arrived at the intersection of myth and science, of fact and folklore. You have arrived at Bigfoot Crossing.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Michael Willie, and welcome to Bigfoot Crossing. I have my good friend Daryl Williams here. Daryl, you doing all right?
Hey, Michael, good. How are you today?
I'm doing good. You got your windows all rolled up?
They're just barely cracked. I think I'm going to be okay, but that's an ominous cloud.
It really is. You know, I came up, was driving from downtown Nashville, and it just looked awful downtown with the wind blowing, and but I got out on the interstate, and you know, they had the sign up on the little Amber Alert sign, the highway information sign, says ponding possible, ponding of water possible, so drive with caution, and the roads were dry. So they must have had that up there as a, you know, for future information, but it's looking nasty out there.
And the past couple of nights, I've seen some of and overnights and early morning, I've seen some of the most brilliant lightning storms and strikes ever, I think.
Yeah,
it's an active time.
It sure is. It sure is. So if you're out and about, keep an umbrella with you, and if you're out and about, keep your smartphone tuned to the TuneIn app and Bigfoot Crossing here, because you can listen to Bigfoot Crossing on the TuneIn app on your smartphone or tablet. And you can also listen over the internet on WAKMworldwide.com, and in your car or at home on 950 AM WAKM. So we are here today at Bigfoot Crossing, and we're excited. We've got a new segment coming up. It's called Bigfoot in the News, and we have an interview today with a representative of the China Flat Willow Creek. Actually, I think I've got that backwards. It's the Willow Creek China Flat Bigfoot Museum out in Northern California, and we'll bring her on in just a few minutes. And I want to remind everybody folks who have won a book to come by the station and pick it up. They sort of got misplaced. I think somebody came by to pick up their book, and it couldn't be found. The books got moved because the Channel 4 news crew was here last week, and so they got placed somewhere where they usually where they're not usually put, and so they couldn't find the books. But the books are here. I promise you, we didn't give away a fake book.
No, we wouldn't do that.
So come on by and pick up your books.
I think it was Ronnie, but I'm not sure if I'm remembering his name.
Okay.
But he came by. He said he listens religiously.
Well, that's great.
And I think he works close by, so maybe he'll come back and claim his book.
Okay, we'll go. Yes, come on back, but by all means, keep listening. I think I hope we'll have a good show for you today. I know we'll have a good show, and we're gonna go into this new segment, Bigfoot in the News. And what I thought we would do would be just to present a couple of news stories of that have been talked about on the news, and if you have any news tips, you can text me at 615-516-7173, 615-516-7173. And our first report comes from WHIO in Dayton, Ohio, but it is about Bigfoot sightings reported in North Carolina, in Littleton, North Carolina. The story tells us that Tiffany Merrill has seen large footprints circling her home. The trash at the base of the steps by her front porch has completely vanished. She doesn't feel safe in her house and thinks it's because of a Bigfoot creature. I literally could see him from all the way here. I started hearing it Merrill told WNCN. It was very large, and its hair was super long, and it was running so fast. She described the creature as a large gorilla. She saw it weave through trees, crushing large branches in its way. And Miss Merrill notified Stephen Barcello, a self-described cryptozoologist who investigates sightings of unknown creatures. He also runs the Cryptozoology and Paranormal Museum. I love it.
She called him, right?
She called
And
him.
when she called him, he said, "You rang." I think was that Lurch?
That was Lurch.
Oh.
That was Lurch off of the Addams Family. I love that show.
It's partial Lurch anyway.
I grew up watching that show. I love that show.
Sorry, I didn't find your news
no,
sounder. That was the best I could
That's
do.
okay. We'll go
yeah.
for any sound effects we can get here. That's terrific.
We'll have teletype for you next week.
That's what we need, a teletype. That's what it was called. Yeah. See, Daryl always knows what I'm talking about, even when I don't. So that's what
Hey,
I
what's a
appreciate about
sidekick
Daryl.
for?
That's right.
Yeah.
I tell you, it pays, friends and neighbors, to have as your sidekick the high muckety muck, or one of the high muckety mucks here at WAKM.
Oh my goodness.
And not only one of the high muckety mucks, he is the grand poobah of the muckety mucks.
It's hard to
here
get
at
on a business
WAKM.
card, you know.
It's a long title. That's a long title to fit on a business card.
And I didn't mean to interrupt your Bigfoot newscast.
No. That's just fine. This is all important stuff.
Yeah, I know.
Let's see. Where did I get to?
She called this
She
guy.
called Stephen Barcello, who's a self-described cryptozoologist who investigates the sightings of unknown creatures. He also runs the Cryptozoology and Paranormal Museum from his home. So it's a small museum, but that's okay. He took a cast of the footprint that had been left in Merrill's yard, and he says there are a lot of people in this town who've had sightings who still won't come talk to us because they're afraid of being ridiculed. And that's something we've talked about in the past with various guests. Dr. Bendernagel and I know Joe Bill, you and I talked about it. I think Michael Rugg and I talked about it. It's the fact that people are so reticent, Daryl, to talk about this because they're afraid of being made fun of.
You said that's a problem.
It really
yep.
is, and that's why I want folks to understand that here at Bigfoot Crossing, this is a friendly place.
Safe harbor.
Thank you. Good. See, boy, he's just a silver-tongued devil, isn't he? just a safe harbor for people to come and know that they're among friends and they can tell us what they've seen. And so if you have seen Bigfoot or if you've had some sort of a Bigfoot experience, you're not alone, because there's two databases that I look at, and that's the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization and the Gulf Coast Bigfoot Research Organization, the GCBRO and the BFRO. And on those two databases, there may be some overlap where folks have reported the sighting to both databases, but there are over 150 Bigfoot sightings and Bigfoot, whether it's footprints or an actual sighting, but some sort of an experience with Bigfoot reported on those two databases just for Middle Tennessee, just for the 22 counties, I think it's 22 counties, that comprise Middle Tennessee. So people are seeing something, and they're not always seeing somebody dressed up in an ape costume, because why would people do that? I mean, I know there are hoaxers out there, and there's people who are going to do it, but if you're just walking through the woods and you hear something or you see something, why would somebody be sitting out in the middle of the woods, especially in the heat of summer,
On a 100-degree day.
on a 100-degree day, dressed up in a hot ape costume for the chance to jump out from behind a tree and yell boo? It just doesn't make sense.
They would be crazy.
Thank you.
Crazy.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, unless you're getting paid to stand on a street corner and twirl a sign with an ape costume on, and I've seen people doing that, or maybe not in an ape costume, but, you know, some sort of costume. You know, people aren't going to dress up like that just to pull a hoax on a hot day. So, folks, if you have seen something, you can call us. We can talk about it. You don't have to give your name. You don't have to give any details. And if you want to talk about it in private, you can call me on my cell phone at 615-516-7173, 615-516-7173. And we can discuss it privately. Also, speaking of hoaxes, let's move on to our next Bigfoot story. This is from Fox 13 in Salt Lake City, Utah. And the headline says, Idaho professor who believes in Bigfoot analyzes footage from alleged sighting near Payson, Utah. And this was posted to the web February of 2016. And it deals with a man that I hope to have on the show in the near future, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, who is a professor of anatomy at Idaho State University, specializing in locomotion, how things walk and how things move. And there was apparently a video shot near Payson, Utah, that shows a Bigfoot walking through the woods. Pardon me while I get a drink of Kangen water. I need it to wet my whistle. Apparently this is a controversial film. But I'll read the story here. A video shot near Payson allegedly shows a Sasquatch walking through the forest, but Bigfoot enthusiasts, including a professor of anatomy at Idaho State University, says the Payson video has some major red flags. Dr. Jeffrey Meldrum has been tracking Bigfoot for 20 years, and he believes the top-level predator is very real, but he doesn't believe the video shot near Payson is real. Dr. Meldrum studies footprints. The hook was really set for me as far as my research interest in 1996, when I witnessed some tracks in southeastern Washington, he said. On Monday, video surfaced of a possible Bigfoot sighting near Payson. Meldrum spoke to Fox 13 about his take on that footage. Quote, the face is very shiny, and the edge between that shiny face and the surrounding hair is very, very sharp. In other words, there's a sharp definition between where the face ends and the hair begins, which smacks of a cheap, fabricated costume, he said. He said another red flag is the way the creature moves, while another argument against the footage is the fact that it took a year for it to surface. He also cites a lack of any other evidence like pictures of footprints left behind. There's no place you're going to find... actually, this is another quote from David Carver, who's a Bigfoot enthusiast. He offered his take on the Payson footage and said it could be real. It could easily not be real. But I don't want to call people fakers, because if you do that enough, then nobody will send you information, and pretty soon you lose out on real things. So by his emphasis on real things, I think he probably thinks that the film is fake, just doesn't want to say it. He's also questioning the lack of supporting evidence, but he's not questioning his own beliefs. I know what I know, Carver said. I know what I've seen, and I don't need any more. These bipeds are as real as can be. And Meldrum concurs in that. He says, I'm convinced that these creatures, while they very likely exist, are extremely rare. He said they are large animals, top predators, so there just aren't that many of them out there in the environment. So here we have an example of a film that was faked, and it was very quickly shown to be a fake. Now, we have a film that was made in 1967, and it has been ridiculed by scientists, but never debunked. And that's called the Patterson-Gimlin film. And he didn't have the benefit of video cameras. He had to come along with his own 16 millimeter film camera, and he filmed a creature, not someone in a suit. Monkey suits, gorilla suits don't show muscle definition. Patterson's film, you can very clearly see the muscle definition. You can even see, if you watch carefully, what appears to be a hernia, a sports type hernia, that where the muscle bulges out and goes back in, depending on how the animal is stepping. So we have a video here that has been debunked and shown to be a fake, and all of those. I guess people will do about anything for their 15 minutes of fame. Just watch reality TV and you'll see that. But here's somebody who really is doing a huge disservice to the scientific community, to the community of Bigfoot researchers, by putting something out there that's an obvious fake. They're hoaxing, and that, and when people in the scientific community see that hoax, they brush everybody. They paint everybody with that same brush, and that's just unfortunate. And that, in turn, makes people who have an actual encounter reluctant to come forward. It's a domino effect. And,
interesting.
yeah.
Well, you're listening to Bigfoot Crossing with your host, Michael Willie, WAKM. Kind of blowing up a storm here at our broadcast location. But, Michael, what's the latest through the window there? Is it...
Well, it's still...
I think it is raining
still
now.
Still cloudy? Is it raining?
I think
yes,
I see the rain falling.
Yes, it is. And I think as long as the rain doesn't blow sideways, I think you're good on your windows.
Yeah, my windows are cracked just a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, Daryl drives a 2016 Mercedes-Benz, the high-end model, so he's obviously pulling down the big bucks
in
here.
My dreams. In my dreams.
Well, folks, we're gonna, Daryl, if you'll call that number, we're gonna talk to a representative of the Willow Creek China Flat Bigfoot Museum, and that is in Northern California, and it's located just south of Bluff Creek, which is where Roger Patterson filmed the Bigfoot, and it's sort of the heart of Bigfoot country out in Northern California, and so
we're ringing now.
All right.
I didn't have to dial 1.
Really?
I might get the operator though. So this is going to be. Yes, we're calling from the Bigfoot Crossing radio show. Can you speak with Michael Willie? All right, well, we're going to connect you to the studio, and Michael, here is your guest.
Hello, thank you. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you.
And tell me your name again, Miss McWilliams.
Peggy McWilliams.
Peggy McWilliams. And what's your position at the Bigfoot?
I'm a docent.
Okay, all right.
Volunteer, in other words.
All right. And how
Been
much?
there 16 years.
16 years. Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Even before Bigfoot was anything to talk about.
That's great. Well, now, how long has the museum been there?
The museum itself was put together, shall we say. There was a small building there, and they built onto it in 1988. And then Titmus came along with a lot of casts and told the museum that if they would build a room for the casts, he would give them to the museum, which he did. But that was done in 1998, 10 years after the museum first got together.
Okay, and that was Bob Titmus that did that?
Yes, it was.
Okay, and for our listeners, Bob Titmus was a great friend of John Green.
Yes, indeed, he was.
And a great Bigfoot researcher, and did have a huge collection of casts.
Yes, he did. He passed away a number of years after they did the museum, the building that's there for the Bigfoot. And he had a lady friend, I believe, that had some of the casts, and I think some of hers were donated also. I don't think the museum got his total collection, but they got a number of them.
Okay, well that's wonderful. Well, let me start off by giving everybody the web address. It's bigfootcountry.net.
Yes.
And it is the Willow Creek China Flat Museum.
Yes.
And so you've been there 16 years.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about. I mean, I know you've got a wide range of things there, not just Bigfoot.
That's right.
So tell us a little bit about some of the exhibits there.
There's quite a few exhibits from the Chinese that came in 1849 with the gold diggers, and they had what I thought was very interesting. Even though they probably did a lot of the gold digging for the miners, they also had companies of their own and sold stock in it.
Uh-huh.
And we go into Indian baskets, and there's I don't know, an animal of some kind, wildcat or something, skin, and it's all to do with Indians. And there's a lot of interest on the board and everything of the museum in the Indian culture. They can tell you how to put hard rocks in a woven basket and light a fire and cook and all kinds of things.
Oh, wow.
And also, there were a lot of people that just had antique things. I won't say a lot of guns, but there's 6 or 8 old guns on racks. And there's an old saddle that belonged to one of the first gentlemen that were here with the Forest Service. And we have old bottles and just a lot of things. Some of it's china, some of it's an old Bible and things like that. Just that people had that were old, and they wanted to really find some place to put them. Mm-hmm. So, including my mother, who had some small, if you'll believe, little small buttoned boots that she bought at a dime store. All kinds of little things.
Uh-huh.
So too numerous to mention.
But all representing the history and culture.
Yes, exactly.
Of the
and
area.
Mostly before 1900.
Wow.
That they sort of lean on 1900. There are numerous newer collections because I have a large doll collection there, and it's only been there for the last couple of years. And they don't mind taking in things like that. But the cases periodically will be changed from one thing to another. If they have something else that they want to show, they may take something out of a case and put that in.
Sure.
I also show periodically because I'm a collector. I was in 1964. I was in Los Angeles when the Olympics came, and the Olympics papers in Los Angeles were the first sports pages printed in color. So I have those, and I put those in because there is going to be Olympics in Rio de Janeiro before very long, and that, to me, is of interest, too.
Absolutely.
So you get all kinds of things.
Yeah. Well, now tell me where the museum is located.
It's off Highway 299 and 96.
Okay. And a physical address for folks who may be interested in coming out that way?
I can't tell you that, but there's if you come into town, there's a raised market from the coast, and we're right next to the raised market, and on the corner up at the street is a restaurant, and it's a large parking lot you have to turn into, and right at the curb they have one of those fluttering signs that says museum. You can't miss it.
Okay, all right, that sounds great.
Everybody in town knows where we are.
Now, how long have you lived in the area?
I've been here 31 years, but I'm also a native Californian. And what's interesting, and I'll tell you a story about that, is in the 20s, and I was born 1930, and my dad and mother fished up here on the Klamath every year in the fall for steelhead and salmon. So I think the first time I came up with them I was 4 years old. Now, in 1940 or something along that line, there is a research and a lady personally that I know that was also fishing at that time on the Klamath River, and her son had a bike. Coming up to the camp, a small Bigfoot followed him up, and she saw it, but nobody else did. And for years, even everybody in her family said she was crazy. For years, she would never talk about it,
Wow.
But Al Hodgson knew that she had seen one. There's also another lady that has a donut shop, sandwich shop, a little bit out on 299, a little farther toward Redding, that also saw one hunting with her grandmother. So those two I know are absolutely legitimate.
See, that's what Daryl and I were just talking about a few minutes ago, is the fact that so many people, there's probably been twice as more sightings than have been reported.
Oh, yes, I'm sure.
Because people are
and it's the same thing up until, I would say, Bigfoot really didn't get really big here until 4 or 5 years ago. And in 2003, of course, we had a symposium, and George Green came, Bendernagel came, Chilcott came, and all kinds of people, and Bayanov from Russia came, and it was absolutely magnificent because hundreds of people came, and we're a very, very small town. So it sort of took off from there. And then, of course, the picture of Bigfoot and everything that Roger Patterson got is really great. Everybody comes in to see the picture and also to buy the picture, things like that.
Well, it is sad that people who have that experience, you know, my daughter and I went to Gatlinburg back in October, well, right around Halloween. Gatlinburg is in East Tennessee, and there's a large bear population in the state park, and we saw like 6 bears.
You'll see a lot of bears out here too.
So, and we came home and we were excited to tell everybody we saw a bear. You know,
right.
We could show them pictures and everything. But people who see a Bigfoot are just mortified to tell people because they're afraid they're going to be made fun of or looked at like they've got 2 heads.
Not so much, I don't think, anymore, at least here, because if anybody has a sighting here, you're big time. Absolutely. And I've not seen one that I saw a picture of on a man's camera, literally photographed so you can hang it or something like that. But he put it on a website, and I think you can get up on websites that just show the Bigfoot and that sort of thing. But this was certainly a legitimate film, and very few people get a picture.
Right.
It's like I've talked to men that have hunted in Colorado and seen Bigfoot, and this one gentleman said he looked up and he saw it, and it was looking at him, and he just stood there because he didn't know what it was going to do. And it began to move to the right, and he said, "Oh, heavens, what am I going to do if it comes around behind me?" But it didn't. It just walked off. So, and of course, there's a thing here. You do not ever draw a gun on one. So, and I don't know why that is. Are they going to attack you? I don't think so. But they say don't. And I don't think you could shoot one anyway, because from what I've seen in some of the books that we have that the Indians have printed and things, they look so much like a person, even though they may be 12, 14, 16 feet high.
Yeah.
That, I think you're so frightened in the first place you're going to turn and run.
that would certainly, I think that is the first reaction most people take.
I think so too. Absolutely.
You see something.
It's not uncommon, and over the years, the Indians have come in off the reservation, and not so much lately, but in time gone by, and said it was not unusual if you're fishing on the Klamath River to look up and see one standing across the river from you. And they're saying, are they watching you because they're hungry and they want to fish, or are they curious? I have no idea.
Yeah. One of my favorite Bigfoot encounters that's listed in John Green's book, Sasquatch, the Apes Among Us, has to do with a Bigfoot stealing fish out of nets. They'd caught the fish. They were in nets.
I wouldn't be surprised.
They had them there by the river, and the Bigfoot just is swimming by and takes them out of the net.
It's possible. I've never heard that, but I have heard a gentleman say he was canoeing on the river, and something huge, like came down behind him, say 50 feet behind him, and plunked into the water, made a big splash. And he never saw what it was, but he said he just had the feeling that it was a Bigfoot that had come into the water and was following him down.
Wow.
There's some kind of a sensation that you get.
Sure,
if there's one. I have a lady friend in the Poconos that is sort of, and sometimes a little on the kooky side, but anyway, she's
Hope
into
she's
Bigfoot
not listening.
too, so they must be around. I haven't talked to her lately, but she's going to call me and tell me all these wonderful stories, and I hear a lot of stories.
Well, I bet you do. What's your most interesting Bigfoot story that you've heard?
I think the first one was a search and rescue came down from Oregon and told me that they were looking for a 4-year-old boy lost in the woods. They didn't find him the first night, but they found him the next day sitting alongside the road. And when they picked him up, all he could talk about was the big hairy man that picked him up, brought him down, and sat him alongside the road. And they must have thought that it sounded enough like a Bigfoot to come down and tell me. And I think in other books, too, there was a man, rolled up in a tarp or something and taken home for 5 days and then got away. There's all kinds of stuff. And, of course, you go really, really far back, which I don't like to go that far back. The Indians, I believe, felt that some of their younger maidens were taken off. I don't know if any of that were ever documented, but who knows?
I have heard about that, and of course the Albert Ostman story. He's the gentleman who got rolled up in a sleeping bag.
Right, and I think he had snuff or something to get away.
He did.
He gave him snuff.
Yep.
So I always tell anybody looking for it, take some snuff.
That's not a bad idea. Maybe I'll carry a can of snuff with me when the next time I'm out in the woods.
And there was a gentleman came down 96, a number of years ago, and it was summertime. The apples were ripe, and they saw a Bigfoot go across the road in front of them. But it went into an apple orchard, which is certainly reasonable because they were looking for something to eat.
Sure.
I had also a friend whose son was eeling. There is a place up on the Klamath River called Ishy Pishy Falls, and he and some of his Indian chums were down eeling, and he said when he looked up, there was a big one standing up on the road, and it walked off, but they didn't know if it was curious or if it was just wanting them out of there so it could go get eels to eat.
Wow.
It's logical, I would think. They'd be looking for something to eat.
Absolutely. I either one of those things, that seems to be the two primary ways that I've seen of these Bigfoot sightings is one, crossing the road, which is part of the reason why I call this show Bigfoot Crossing.
Oh, really? Okay.
But the other one is, people are out doing something, whether it's working in the yard or fishing or doing something like that, and they look up.
Right, and sometimes the truckers are coming down out of the woods with a load of wood.
Yeah.
Too. Yes.
Yeah.
Especially here, they log off the reservation, so there's a lot of logging. And an Indian lady told me one day her husband was down in a canyon cutting so they could trimming trees so they could get ready to log, and he heard a scream. And she said he came up out of there and he said, I am never going back down there again. Just like that. So even they've heard it.
Yeah. Well, that's what, we were talking a minute ago about, the first impulse might be to run away, and that's that fight or flight impulse that people get. And I think if I'm seeing something that's a lot bigger than me, my first impulse would not be to fight.
No, indeed, I should say not. And it's kind of comical because I'm a collector. So I have a friend that does the website. He gets whatever whoever wants something from the museum on the website gives it to me, and I send it out. So on the website came in, not on the website, but from somebody on the website or came to it, had some sticks. He said that he knew that Bigfoot was clacking. Well, the museum wasn't interested in it, but I was. So he gave me the sticks, and they're about 12, 14 inches long, and when you clack them together, they make a kind of a hollow sound. Not like any stick you would pick up in the yard and bang, but these sticks were hollow. So I have them because I thought that's really classy. I got sticks now.
There you go. That's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
If I make it out there, will you show me your clacking sticks?
I certainly will.
Okay, because that's one of my goals is to come out to Willow Creek and visit and maybe get up to Bluff Creek.
Oh, absolutely.
And do some hiking around. And but I want to get back to the exhibits, but coming up, of course, we're in the middle of summer, so it doesn't seem right to talk about Labor Day, but Willow Creek has a Bigfoot Days over the Labor Day weekend, right?
Yes, they do, and it's humongous. It's the most one day that's brought in the money to the museum on that day. It always comes up on Labor Day, but it's a Saturday. Like Labor Day falls on Monday or Sunday, it's always on the Saturday because that's when people come to town. Okay. And there's a parade, and you can dress up in a costume, and there's food all over town, and there's baseball games. Lots going on, absolutely. Golf tournament, the whole business. Yes, it's really something.
Oh, I'd love to get out there to see that. That's wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll expect you.
Yeah. Well, I told my daughter. I said I'd love to get out there this September, and my nephew Eric is excited and wants to go too.
Absolutely.
But we may have to wait till next year. Well, tell me what was I going to ask? Oh. I did want to point out to our listeners that y'all do have a shop on your website, which is bigfootcountry.net.
Uh-huh.
And I saw several things that I'm going to be purchasing.
Okay. We have a gift shop. There's a lot of T-shirts, of course. Bigfoot stepped on me with a print on the back. And there's things for kids and all that. And a great array of books, but not big enough. But I wanted the lady that orders to order Bayanoff's books. When Bayanoff came, he brought books, and you see him on TV too every once in a while if you're lucky enough on the Animal Planet to see the Bigfoot. What do I want to say? There's a part in it that was Bigfoot in Russia, and Bayanoff's there. But let me tell you, I bought the books. They were like $33 a piece, and the lady that wanted to order here found them for order over $100 a piece. So there's not likely we would carry those. But we do have John Green's books and a number of others. So we have a lot of great books for reading.
Yeah, and Bayanoff died, I think, a few years ago, so his books are probably out of print, which would be
it's a possibility.
Why they're so expensive.
Yeah. When they show them on TV, it's like they're still around. We also have books by Jeff Meldrum, and Meldrum, of course, has been to the museum a number of times. And then I saw him not very long ago on television up in the High Sierras at some lake, Lundy Lake, and he and a group with cameras and stuff. Somebody had seen a family of Bigfoot in the area, and I did not see anything about him having discovered Bigfoot in that area, but they were up looking. So it's always interesting with what's going on.
It is.
It would be nice if you come, if you could bring a camera.
Oh,
and you could take it, and I'll film you.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, because I want to come out there so bad. I've wanted to do that for a long time. And so let's get back to the exhibits in the museum. You've got Bob Titmus's collection of casts.
And in the Bigfoot room, there are also the paper articles of when they first saw it, or the footprints when they first saw it. And there's news articles. I think it's Jerry Crew or somebody. And then it goes into John Green and Mr. Hodgson. Mr. Hodgson has several pictures in there of when they took casts. Some of them were taken right on the edge of water and all of that sort of thing. That's in there. And then there's a huge picture of, it lost me for a minute. The big one that they took in 73. Tell me who did it.
Roger Patterson.
Roger Patterson.
Yes.
Patterson has a huge film in there of that one segment of the female Bigfoot walking, and so that's always interesting. Well, there's always a DVD going in the back of something on Bigfoot also.
Okay.
So that's about it.
Yeah, and I saw in your online store that you've got a blow up picture of the Patterson Gimlin film.
Yes, we do. It's like 14 by 27 or whatever. As big as that. That's as big as it gets.
It's for our listeners, and I encourage you to go to bigfootcountry.net, and folks can become a member of the museum online.
You certainly may. Absolutely.
And that entitles you get to receive your newsletter. Is that correct?
Yes, and the newsletter before people join up does not carry. It goes back to the 1900s and gold mining and all that. So this is just a thing between me and the lady. There's two of us that are been ancient and on the board a long time, and then the newer people come in, follow what goes on the board, and so I don't have really much to say about it. So in the newsletter, there's nothing new about sightings of Bigfoot or anything like that. But you can get on the website and buy all the books and everything, and the prints of Bigfoot. But unfortunately, in belonging to the museum, which is great, it tells you all the things that are coming up, the chili cook-off and the barbecues and all of that sort of thing. But they don't list anything on Bigfoot, unfortunately.
But that's okay, because the money goes to support the museum.
Yes,
in
it
general.
does. Yes, it certainly does.
And that's wonderful. Now, do y'all charge admission?
No, we don't. It's free, absolutely free.
Okay. So if you are going to Northern California and you want to make a wonderful stop in Willow Creek and visit the Bigfoot China Flat Museum. Now, China Flat used to be the name of the town. Is that correct?
China Flat was here originally when the gold miners were here, and it was until I think 1914 when probably gold was discovered in Sacramento at Sutter's Fort or whatever toward San Francisco,
Right.
and they got a lot more mail at that post office than they did here. So they changed it here to the Willow Creek Post Office or Willow Creek China Flat Post Office. So really it's just Willow Creek Post Office now, and it's no longer called China Flat. But there was a China Flat here, and there were Chinese and everything in here at the time.
So it's
It all goes back to the mining.
and the influence of the Chinese in the area.
Yes. And
I see.
So to say about the Chinese, and I sort of know what happened, but maybe not everything. Somehow there were a lot of Chinese, and some, so I think, some in San Francisco got into a brouhaha with somebody from the government or maybe from the town or so, and whoever they got into a brouhaha with got wounded. And so, not the government, but the state government probably rounded up a lot of them. A lot of them were killed, and a lot of them were set back to China.
Oh,
but
my.
there are many, many great, like L.A. has Chinatown, San Francisco has Chinatown.
Yes, ma'am.
There are a lot of smaller towns that have a lot of Chinese people, which is really great.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And you had mentioned Al Hodgson.
Yes.
How is Mr. Hodgson doing?
Mr. Hodgson is in his late 90s, and we see him once in a while, but he doesn't come in to talk, or he doesn't come in to sit. He will talk to you if he comes in, but he has a wonderful son that he lives with, and they come by once in a while.
Good.
He's done a lot of documentaries, including National Geographic, and there was one, I've done one from Canada, and there's a number of them that come in. And in the early days, he did a lot of talking. However, let me say that Gimlin is very alive and up and hopping. And
Yes.
he comes in periodically 3 or 4 times a year to the museum.
Oh, really?
And usually he's been with Bobo. If you're a kid, you've been up to Animal Planet, and you love Bobo. Kids love Bobo.
Yes, they do.
And usually he's with Bobo when Bobo comes around.
Really?
So he's a very interesting man.
Bobo or Bob Gimlin, both of them, I'm sure.
Yes, Bobo lives in Arcata, which is very close to here, over
Okay.
on the coast.
Okay.
So he's well known.
Yeah. I love Bobo's probably my favorite member of the Finding Bigfoot crew. He reminds me a lot
Absolutely.
of my oldest brother. But
Let me tell you a story about Bobo. Somebody came in. I talked to the Indians when they came in, and an Indian came in off the reservation in Washington State. And I said, "Oh, you ever seen Bigfoot?" "Oh, yes," he said, 5 or 6 times. Most of the Indians have. And I said, "Well, I heard that Bobo was up filming between Oregon and Washington." And he said, "Yes, and do you know why?" And I said, "No." He said, "Because the Indians think that Mount St. Helens is going to blow again. There's surges going on underneath, and
Wow.
the Indians claim that that's going to happen, and the Bigfoot are migrating down out of there now. That's why Bobo was up there, because they think Mount St. Helens is going to explode again, and who knows?"
Wow.
You know. So I thought, okay, that's interesting.
That
The deer were also migrating down out of there. So that was last year or year before, whenever that was. So who knows?
that is interesting.
Just take it with a grain of salt.
Well, animals can sense things. They're a lot more
Yes,
perceptive
they can.
than we
They
are.
surely
That's
can.
for sure.
Absolutely.
That's for sure. Well, now, a few years ago, there was a film made called Willow Creek.
Yes, indeed, there was. And it started out as supposedly the museum was going to co-sponsor it. But when they saw the film, it was a no, sponsor it.
Okay.
So it was they're going ahead with it and wanting it to be the China Flat Museum. It wasn't. They took it off because the ending of it was, and I've never seen it or anything, but they did not like the ending of it.
Okay,
I think
I've not
they
seen
left
it either.
so that you could either decide whether it was a Bigfoot or a person killing things, or I don't know. It did not get a good reputation. So
Okay.
it actually the film company came to the museum, and right there, the museum wrote its name right off of it. So I've not seen it. So, look at it and figure out for yourself.
I'll have to watch that. I haven't seen it.
I haven't either.
But I understand that there were a lot of folks, citizens of Willow Creek, that were like extras in the movie. Is that right?
It's a possibility. It's
Okay.
a possibility. There was a small company that was a cute company, and I don't know what company it was. It wasn't anything big, but I arrived at the museum one day about 9:45, ready to set up, and there were film crews in the area, and this booth that was handing out money and people everywhere, and I said, what in the world is going on? This little film company was making a film about Bigfoot. And so anybody that was out there that wanted to be an extra got paid $50 right on the barrelhead.
Hey.
So they came in, and I never found out what it was about, but it was a gentleman and getting makeup on in the back going through, and a lovely little black director saying, okay, out, and this man went out with a mic, and everybody screamed, and then they, okay, let's do that again. And I said, what's it supposed to be about? Well, it was like Bigfoot had been in a cave at the beach, and I guess something about maybe they captured a big one or a little one, and I don't know. They had a huge box, maybe a foot thick, about 4 foot wide, and about 10 feet long. So evidently something Bigfoot was in it, or supposed to be.
All right.
And
okay.
it kept going and going and going. And finally they just went out and said goodbye. And I said, okay, I have no idea what the film is about, and I've never seen it. But they were filming something.
Sounds like
So
Willow
you never
Creek is a
know.
happening place.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Miss McWilliams, and the museum's closed today, right?
Mondays and Tuesdays.
Okay.
But if I'm here and available, and I usually am, there's a note down at the museum and another lady's note, too, of our phone numbers. You call us and we come out during Mondays and Tuesdays.
Oh, well, I sure appreciate you taking the time today to
You're
talk
very
with us.
welcome. I'm happy to talk to you.
And I do want to encourage our listeners to go to
Oh, please do.
bigfootcountry.net. And
Come one and all. We have a lot of food that's good.
yes, and go if you're out in Northern California, go to Willow Creek and visit this lovely community and the wonderful museum there. And one thing I did want to point out that you have and I was meant to mention this when we were talking about Mr. Hodgson, that on the website you can purchase a replica of a cast
Yes.
of a Bigfoot print
Yes.
that was
Yes.
casted by Mr. Hodgson. So
Yes.
so
Uh-huh.
that's great. I tell you what, I'm gonna write it down, all of this stuff. I'm gonna give my daughter a Christmas list
Okay,
for her.
that'd be
She,
good.
she can get all my Christmas presents off y'all
Okay.
out of y'all's store.
I'll make sure you do.
Miss McWilliams, I want to make sure I didn't mishear you at the first of the broadcast. Did you say you were born in?
In California, 1930, yes.
See, I'm doing the math here. You have the enthusiasm of a much younger lady.
Thank you. I'm pretty old, 86 actually.
Well, I
but
think
I am a Bigfoot enthusiast, and of course I'm a collector of everything. So anything coming in on Bigfoot, that's big news.
I think Michael has met his. He's got some competition as far as his enthusiasm and knowledge of Bigfoot.
I do.
That's okay.
I do.
It keeps us happy. We're both smiling.
That's
what more
right.
could you do?
Yeah.
That's right. Keeps us out of trouble, doesn't it?
And also, if you talk a lot, it helps great.
That's right. Well, Miss McWilliams, thank you so much.
You're
I want to
very
encourage
welcome.
all of our listeners, if you're out in Northern California, go visit the Willow Creek China Flat Museum, and if you're not, you can go online and you can support the museum by becoming a member. And thank you
Great.
so much, Miss McWilliams. You have a great
You're
day.
most welcome. You're most welcome.
Bye-bye now.
Bye. Thank you for calling.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Don't you hope you have that boundless enthusiasm and knowledge when you're
I hope
86,
I make it to 86.
if I'm doing it,
That's
yeah.
right. You know, she did not sound 86
No,
years
she-
old. I was surprised to hear that.
right? And
But a great museum and lots of local stuff, but also stuff about Bigfoot. And one thing I didn't get to talk to her about, we always run out of time, and we go off on tangents, and then I never seem to find my way back. But John Green spoke at the museum opening, and Bob Titmus is mentioned prominently in several of John Green's books, and he was a tracker and I believe a taxidermist, if I remember correctly. And so he made a lot of tracks of Bigfoot prints. He was when Roger Patterson filmed Bigfoot in 1967 in Bluff Creek. As soon as John Green found out about it, and it may have been the next week, Bob Titmus was down there casting prints, and so he was a great Bigfoot investigator. and did have a rather large collection of footprint casts. So that would be worth that would be worth the price of admission right there, just to see his footprint casts. And but if you are looking for a Christmas present for your favorite Bigfoot radio program host, go to
You
Bigfoot
wouldn't drop
Country.
a hint, would
No,
you?
no,
You
no,
missed Father's
no.
Day.
That's right. Well, if you want to get me a late Father's Day gift, that would work too. But go to BigfootCountry.net, and you can support the museum there by becoming a member. And they really do have a great store there, an online store.
I thought the Native American twist that she had on it was interesting. You
Yes.
know, and the what was it, Mount St. Helens? That's kind of
That's
eerie.
interesting.
Yeah,
I had and it ties in with a couple of things that I had heard that I don't know if I read it online or on the news or saw something on TV about the fact that they are concerned that it's building up pressure again.
hearing rumbles.
Hearing rumbles.
It's rumbling.
Yes. So that would be another great calamity if it exploded anything like it did years ago.
It looks like the Pacific Northwest out our door.
I know we've got all this rain coming down, and it's just a rainy kind of day, But I hope you're out. If you're out there, be safe, drive safe, turn your lights on. You're supposed to have your lights on, and when you're driving in the rain, turn your lights on so people can see you, and be safe as we're driving. And thank you all so very much for being with us here today at Bigfoot Crossing. Tune in next week, same bat time, same bat channel, right here at Bigfoot Crossing on WAKM. Thank you so much.
We hope you have enjoyed your visit with us here at Bigfoot Crossing. The internet home for Bigfoot Crossing can be found at www.bigfootcrossing.net. Michael Willey's website, Bigfoot in Tennessee, can be found at www.tnbigfoot.net. Please follow us on Facebook at Bigfoot Tennessee. You can also follow Michael Willey on Twitter. His handle is at Michael B. Willey. Each episode of Bigfoot Crossing is posted to the Bigfoot Crossing YouTube channel. Please subscribe so you can be notified when new episodes are posted. Your feedback is always welcome. Please email questions and comments to tnsasquatch@gmail.com. Be sure to let us know which episode you have a question or comment about. Thanks for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you next time right here at Bigfoot Crossing.